Welcome to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. I'm your host, Tenya Eichenberg, and this is a space where transformation begins. Here, we dive deep into energy healing, self-care, and the power of mindset to help you break free from old patterns and design a life that feels aligned, vibrant, and authentically you. Each week, we explore the tools, techniques, and real-life experience that guide us toward lasting healing and growth. Because true metamorphosis isn't just about change. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. Now, let's get into this week's conversation. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have Keema on the show. Welcome, Keema.
Hi guys, how are you? How are you? It's such a pleasure to meet you in person, even though it's virtual. It's such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Oh gosh. So the podcast is about transformational stories, and you have quite an impactful story.
Thank you.
And I would love for you to tell us what was take us back before that pivotal point when you knew that there needed to be something needed to change, whether it was a physical location, a mental location, a spiritual location. Where were you before that moment, that aha moment that said something's got to change?
I think this is a wonderful question because I've had so many of those moments. The first thing that comes to mind is when I lost my home. Before that, I was pretty much doing amazing things. I'm the CEO of Beauty is Us. That's a nonprofit organization. So I was doing so much work within the community, loving on women, loving on children. But it was really to make me look good. It was really to put me at the top of a pedestal and to show myself that I was great. So as much as I poured into people, it was something that I needed to do for myself. And when I lost my home, that was that aha moment that shifted everything because I actually lost my home a day after going to a women's shelter
Oh my
and
goodness.
giving back. So at that moment I wasn't the queen of possibilities yet. I was just still Keema. But at that moment, I realized that there has to be something more. There has to be something that I'm able to give, something that I'm able to do that I'm not doing right here, right now. So when I lost my home and my family and we moved into a motel. And I remember spending $190, money that we didn't have, because we were so reluctant to go into the shelter system. It was just something that I never envisioned for myself. I never envisioned for my siblings. And I know it's something that my mom never envisioned for us. So we just kept spending money that we didn't have. And I remember sitting on the edge of this bed. It was so hard. And the sheets, they were so stiff. But it just reminded me of my reality. It reminded me of this false reality that I wanted everything to be okay, that I wanted to be perfect, but it was chaos. And then I remember looking in the corner and I had my suitcase that was half unpacked and half in drawers. And I just remember saying, I'm too good for this. I don't know where I need to be. I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I know that this isn't where I need to be. So I just began to go on this journey of transformation. It wasn't about my clients, it wasn't about my business, it was about me becoming a better person because I knew that there was some cracks in
Mm-hmm.
Keema. I knew that there was some things that I didn't see about me that maybe others pointed out or others seen, but I just needed to go down this path and this journey of transformation and self-development, personal development.
Yeah.
So, I think that was my first aha moment, just realizing that I'm too good to not be in the shelter system or to be homeless, but I was too good to stay stuck. because I didn't know how I was going to help my family. I just knew that it was time for me to do something.
Yeah, it's those are definitely big moments when those happen. Going back to, you said that that people had told you or shown you things that were those cracks that you hadn't seen before.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you think that they were a mirror of you in a sense that that's what they were, because that's what they were trying to show you, and why do you think you weren't open to seeing it at that time? Do you think it was your ego?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you said,
My ego
you're
was
putting
big.
yourself up here in because we do that when we're growing up, we're like, oh, I'm gonna be big shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be big shit.
I think it was a mixture of one, I was in my early 20s. So at that moment, I'm kind of like, you don't know me. You're just
Right.
an employer, or it's like you can't tell me about me. My shigo was just so huge.
Yeah.
It's like I was so into the world and I thought I had all the answers. So looking back at it, I'm so appreciative of the people that told me you gotta stop thinking just about you,
Hmm.
and you gotta get closer to your family, and all of those little things that I felt like was people nagging at me, because I felt like I'm Keema and I'm growing into me, and maybe I'm stepping on people's toes, but it was a mirror in a sense of pain,
Hmm.
because I was experiencing little pain, but I feel like in my culture especially, we normalize pain. We feel like no pain, no gain.
Right.
If I don't bite the bullet, then I'm not doing enough. So I think that those words of wisdom that I kind of brushed off was the small antidotes of that pain to kind of get me ready for the bigger moments that was coming into my life that I wasn't quite aware of. And I look back at it and I'm thankful still that I handled it the way that I handled, because I wouldn't uncovered things that I did.
Hmm.
So while I could say, like, younger Keema, maybe you should have listened, I could look at it and say, I see the amazingness and me being able to sit still years later and see how that played a part in my transitional journey.
Oh, absolutely. I tell people all the time when I tell my story that, I've forgiven my parents for the way that they brought me up, because they only knew what they knew.
Yeah.
They only had the knowledge that they had at the time. And even if Dr. Spock himself had stood in front of them and said, this is how you need to raise a child, it doesn't mean that they would have been able to comprehend or process that knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where we come from when, we think that people are nagging us or telling us that we need to do things a certain way, or maybe you should try it this way. That, yeah, they're telling us that, but unless we're in the space to be able to accept that knowledge and process that knowledge, it's only a seed that's being planted.
Yeah. Success leaves clues.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn that from trial and error, because I was Miss Know It All. So Miss
Mhm.
Know It All had to learn that nothing is new under the sun. You don't know everything. You know what you know, and maybe there's some things that you know that it's time to unlearn so
Right.
that you can relearn you. So it's been an amazing journey, and even thinking about it and talking about it, there's probably some people I need to write and say thank you. Like, just thinking about it. Because as you mentioned, we do the best we can with what we have.
Yeah.
And I had I had I wouldn't say that I was brought up in a rough way, but I didn't always have the guidance that I've always wanted. And I always looked at my mom as she's being hard on me or she's being tough on me. But I was the little version of her.
Hmm.
And she was trying to prevent certain
Right.
mistakes that she made and she didn't want me to make them.
Yeah.
So just being able to be open that everybody is doing the best that they can with what they have, and just that openness to being willing to receive more is always going to be something grand. I
Yeah.
didn't get to where I am by myself. I had to hook my caboose up to amazing people so that I could pick up what they put down
Hmm.
and I could be able to look back and appreciate, wow, this is exactly what that person was telling me. It's just I wasn't able to accept it because I didn't have the ears for it. I didn't
Right.
have the eyes for it. So it's all a journey, you know. There's still some things that I'm unlearning today and I'm like, wow.
You and me both. You and me both. I'm coming up on 50 next year. I'll be 49 this year, so 50 next year. And there's still things
You
that
look 25.
Aw, you're my favorite person today. 28-year-old. But it's so funny because I told my kids very early on that I was always 23 until they could start doing the math.
Mm,
So yeah, so they think they thought I was 23 until they were about 10 years old. Um, so you're sitting on the edge of the bed.
yes.
You've made this decision that Keema's got to pull up her bootstraps. What is the first thing that you did?
The first thing that I did, I believe, I just started to really work on my mindset because at that time, I wasn't able to look at myself in the mirror.
Hmm.
I remember looking in the mirror and I didn't know who the reflection was. I remember saying to myself, who is this? Because that confident, that amazing, resilient girl that I once knew, that wasn't me anymore. So I realized that the truth of me was covered up in all of these things that I told myself and I believed about myself from losing my home. And you would be surprised how the mind could get filled up with head trash
Yeah.
just in a split second.
Yeah, talk about a dumpster fire, right?
Yeah, right. So it was almost like I had to reprogram my mind. So the first step was really learning how to shift my mind, and that wasn't a 1 2 3 process. I think the late Bob Proctor, because he was one of the first people that I started to study, and he's really big on paradigm shifts. So I was like, okay, I got to shift my paradigm. But what is the paradigm? These were words that I never knew. So it was almost like I became a student, and I was so fixated on not being in school that I realized that I was in the school of life. So I had to become really studious. So I guess that's leading into the second thing that I did. I had to be willing to change my mindset, but I had to be really studious and understand I don't know everything. I'm learning what a paradigm is. I'm learning how to shift my paradigm in many different ways. I'm learning how to listen. That was the biggest thing. Like, I'm learning how to listen. I'm learning how to ask for help because I was in those comments and I was writing all of these things. And I remember coming across the movie The Secret.
Favorite, one of my favorites.
And I think that's one of the things that saved my life
Hmm.
because as much as I connected with Bob Proctor, he was this older Caucasian man. And I'm this young black girl that's surrounded around poverty, that's surrounded around chaos and struggle. And I connected with him with the mindset, but it was just something
Right.
that I couldn't really grasp. And then I came across Lisa Nichols.
Love her.
She's my mentor.
Love her.
And I saw this woman with curly hair and big lips, and she spoke on her story about finding her beauty in the mirror. And I was like, wow, I needed to hear that because I want my boyfriend at the time to see my beauty. I want the world to see my beauty and how amazing I am, but I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to really learn how to love me. So those were the three things that I really had to do. I had to learn how to love me, and learning how to love me was hard because I was looking at my circumstances and my situation, and I kept allowing that to define me. So
Yeah.
I had to redefine myself, and that's how I became the queen of possibilities because I realized that I was dealt this stack of cards that I didn't ask for. I didn't ask for this hand, but I had to redeal it, I had to reshuffle it, and I had to live my life based off of possibilities and not life probabilities. So it's not a one, two, three process as I just mentioned it. It took years.
Yeah.
But throughout those years, I've grown closer to my family. Throughout those years, I was able to create an impact. Throughout those years, I was able to make great connections with great people. I was able to find my voice. I didn't know that I was this speaker, but I went back. I had to look back because sometimes we go forward and we move too quickly. So I had to be willing to look back to see how far I came. And I
Yeah.
remember a friend of mine saying, Keema, you should be a motivational speaker. You always speak life into people. And I was just like, I'm in a shelter. Like, ain't nobody gonna want to hear me. And so I developed my voice. And I realized that that was just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
That was just an incident. It doesn't define me. It became my platform, my stepping stone for me to get to the next part and the next best version of me. So sitting on that hard bed, that's always the story I go back to because it was that moment that I realized like this ain't it.
Yeah.
But I had so much of those moments because the breakdown leads you to your breakthrough. And as you're getting to a breakthrough, there's always another moment for you to realize that I wanted to be here, but here is where I really need to be. So I've kept growing, but it's been painful. I can't sit here and say that transformation has been easy because it's not, you
It
know?
never is.
It's
It's
very
always it's
hard.
always messy. It's always like throwing spaghetti to the wall
Mm,
and hoping that it sticks and knowing that it's not going to.
it's just gonna slide down.
It's just going to slide down, and you've got to pick up another piece of spaghetti and throw that at the wall and hope that that sticks. Eventually, you'll stop throwing spaghetti at the wall because you'll find one that works, one that sticks.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you developed a gratitude practice without really realizing or calling it a gratitude practice, because
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. I never really
sitting,
looked at it like that.
sitting in a shelter and realizing that you have to be thankful for being in that shelter. Why are it's like people would say, why would you be thankful for being in a shelter? Well, because I have a bed to sleep on, I have a roof over my head, I have food in my belly. But
and
that's just a step.
and it was as amazing as it was for me to recognize like I have a bed, I have a shelter. The one thing that I was so grateful for was that it brought my family closer
Yeah.
because I felt like we were in this space of I felt like I needed to leave the nest. And I felt like, my family is holding me back. I had all of these crazy thoughts. And I never realized that my family was the one thing that I needed to keep me going.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I can really say anything, I was so grateful for the moment of recognizing, wow, I needed my family and my family needed me. Like we're all pieces of a puzzle, and this puzzle isn't complete when
Mm-hmm.
everybody is all scattered all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
So what are you doing now? Tell the listeners, you've come through this transformation. Obviously, transformations, I think, only end when we pass on to the next life.
Yeah.
Even when we retire, that's a transformation. So where has your transformation brought you to? What is it that you're doing now with all of this great knowledge that you now have?
So now I'm speaking, I'm speaking and I'm coaching, and it's a wonderful thing. But I feel like my transformation has brought me to a place of, I don't want to say finding myself again, but I really had to find myself again.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have these labels, right? We have these roles and the hats that we wear. So I've worn the hat of big sister, and I've worn the hat of being the protector and provider and things of that nature. And I think transformation has brought me to a place of just learning how to be. I was such a doer.
Yeah.
I have to do this, I have to do that. And I remember when my dad died, um, which was so hard for me because I didn't grow up having my dad in my life. He was what I like to call on a long-term timeout because he was in prison.
Long-term time out.
So I didn't really grow up with him, but I was always so close with him because he would always send me birthday cards. We would talk on the phone. I would visit him. So I had a really close relationship with him when I was growing up. But as I gotten older, life started lifing.
Yeah.
And, I lost communication with him probably when I was about 18. I got reconnected with my family and on my father's side of the family. And then we lost contact. And I remember 2022, I was scrolling on Facebook. It was just a regular day. And I saw this picture of him and what the post that I thought would be like a happy birthday post and it's crazy because I know he's a Cancer. And this is happening in September. But that's where the mind goes.
Right.
And I'm thinking this is going to be like a regular shout out post, but it's actually somebody saying rest in peace.
Oh my gosh.
So many things ran through my mind at that moment. Like, where were you all this time, Keema? Like, how could you find out that your dad died and find out on Facebook?
Right.
So at that moment, I felt like I was transitioning because now I have to practice what I preach. I tell people all the time that the spirit is always here, and people who die, they've graduated to a next phase of life, but they're always here and they're always around you. These are things that I believed and I told people, and now I have to practice what I preach.
Mhm.
So it became a phase of, I know these things and I'm saying these things. And it was okay after a while because I'm like, I know this. I know this. I've been talking about this. I've been studying this. So it was almost like I had this toolbox and I was able to dig in this toolbox and pull these things out when my dad died. And then 11 months later, my little brother died
Oh,
to gun violence. And it was hard to practice what I preach
yeah.
because I lived with him my whole life. This is the person I would argue with. This is the person that I would share food with. And that became a moment of transformation because I felt stuck. Like I
That's
couldn't
grief.
move. Yeah.
That's grief.
And it showed me that grief shows up in so many different ways. See, I was a teacher and I was this perfecter with my father, but with my brother, I became a little kid. It was almost like I didn't know anything. So I had to sit with that and I had to learn how to be because throughout my life, I've been a big sister. I've been a protector. And this one moment, I felt like I didn't protect my brother. I felt like I wasn't the big sister that I was raised to be. So I had to grow through, I love saying grow through. I had to grow through that emotion. And I had to go through all of the stages and understand that it was okay. And as I was going through the stages, it was so amazing. I created a journal because all of these things that I was doing, writing letters to my brother and writing letters to my dad, listening to their favorite songs, eating foods, all of these things that I was doing, it was things that helped me heal in the process. So I realized if it could help me, it could help someone else. So
Mhm.
I had this notebook and I just started to write everything in this notebook. And I was like, this is going to be an amazing journal. And I created a journal. So I became an author. And in that process, it was the hardest thing that I had to do. And I remember standing in my living room and I was crying. It was almost like a river just running down. And I'm just like, Stafa, that's his name, Mustafa. Like, Stafa, I'm never going to be the same again. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know who I'm going to be. I'm just not going to be the same again. And I just remember hearing this voice saying, no, you're not. You get to be better. And at that moment, I knew it was time for me to be better. So now I'm helping people navigate through grief. Now I'm able to tell my story, share my story, because I didn't have a story before. Everything was about me. Everything was about how I can do better and how I can be better. And though I know that that's a piece and a part of it, I had to get clear on the fact that there's this journey. I'm not on a destination. I'm on a journey.
Mhm.
And I'm learning, relearning, unlearning so much about me, but it's through these incidents, it's through these moments that will break someone else down. So I'm not using my voice for me. I had to get out of me. It's for you. It's for people like me.
Right.
So it became something so amazing that it was hard to use my voice. It was hard to continue. But I realized that when it gets hard to do it for me, I do it for you.
Yeah.
So that's where I am in my transformation. I know it's a long, drawn out answer, but that's where I am. I'm doing it for me, but I'm doing it for you.
Right. You're showing by example.
Yes, leading by example,
Yeah.
showing by example. I want to show people that, yes, you fall. And sometimes when you
Mhm.
fall, you land on something really hard,
Yeah. Part of being human.
but you get back up.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
look up, you could get up, in the words of Les Brown, right? So
Yep.
that's where that's where I am right now. And it's a beautiful place because I'm still a big sister to the little ones, but I'm always gonna be his big sister.
Yeah.
It's just now I don't have to go out my way to protect him. Now he protects me.
Right. Beautiful. I
Thank
love.
Thank you. I get a little emotional talking about it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Because I mean, he's your brother. It's I've been lucky enough to have not lost anybody close to me yet. But like I said, I'm 48 years old. It's coming, right? I'm getting to that age where um, parents are going to start passing on and, that kind of thing. But, when you have someone who's close to you, just not be there the next day. It's got to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. I would never say, when people say, time heals all wounds and all of those things, I don't really go by that. But I know moment by moment is what I have. And
Right.
some moments are an amazing moment. And some moments I really sit and I say, wow, I never thought that the only time I would see you now was in my dreams.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for those moments. Because there was a time I wasn't dreaming. There was
Right.
a time I couldn't remember my dreams. But every time he's in it, I remember them. So those are things that I cherish.
It makes a huge difference when you can come out of victim mode and change your perspective and be grateful even for those moments when they're not physically here anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not to diminish anybody else's feelings or grief that they're going through, but it's a different perspective of being more optimistic versus more pessimistic.
Yeah.
And we choose
And
to be more optimistic.
yeah, I mean, it's all we have. I mean, you can choose to be pessimistic,
Right.
but I had to look at it as, what is that going to get me?
Right.
Because energy grows where energy goes. So
Yep.
if I put energy into feeling like I lost my brother versus him graduating to his new phase of life, I hold myself back, and I refuse to do that.
Yeah.
Because if I hold myself back, I can't help the people that truly need my help, that
Yeah.
truly need my support.
And so that leads me right into my next question. Where can they find you to get your support, to work with you?
So right now, I'm in this transformational phase. So I'm not being really transactional. I want people to connect with me on Facebook. I'm building my YouTube channel, but I'm on Facebook. I'm Keema Possibilities. And I just want to meet new people. I want to spread joy. I want to lead with love. And I want to just share a message. So that's what I'm doing there on on YouTube. I'm Queen of Possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And there I'm just really bringing two different sides. I want people to see the journey and what it looks like and falling down. Because I feel like people show up only when it's perfect.
Yeah.
I was supposed to wash my hair and I didn't wash my hair. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna put it in two buns. We're gonna make
What
it
a
do what
fun.
it do. We're twinning almost.
We are.
But I said I'm just gonna show up. Because in showing up, I'm showing people that it doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be one and done. You don't have to have that new camera. I'm filming on my iPad sometimes. I'm filming on my laptop. So one part I'm showing a day in the life of Keema, because Keema is just like you. I fall down, I get up, I have ideas. They don't work all the time. I meet new people, I get new opportunities. Sometimes I hear the word no and I got to create a new yes. So I want to show that part of the journey.
Yeah.
I also want to have this part of the journey where I get to speak life into people as well. So I have the possibility show that I'm taking from Facebook and I'm bringing onto YouTube. So it's a fun journey because as I started to build momentum and put content, I got sick. That's why I said I'm so grateful to be here, to have this conversation,
Yeah.
because I wasn't sick for one day, wasn't sick for a week. I was sick for a whole month, the entire
Wow.
month of February. I was sick. And I just kept saying, I have an interview March. And I'm saying to myself, I have all this content I'm supposed to be recording, but I have this interview March 6th and I wonder how I'm going to feel. And by the first, I just started feeling better. I was able to eat. I was able to just get back in this groove. I'm not 100% where I was, but I'm taking the small steps to get to the major goal. So I'm just excited to, yes, be here, but to show myself the resiliency that I've always known to be here. I just had to do it differently this time. So it's an amazing thing. It's really amazing.
You're going to be on
It is
YouTube,
amazing.
Queen of Possibilities,
Yes, ma'am.
on Facebook.
That is
Yes.
where they can find me.
Thank you. wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on and dealing with our technical difficulties.
Of course, listen, I thought I was going to have to sing karaoke until you came back. I was prepared to do
But you know what? You were. I love not editing, so this will all be on the podcast. This will all be on my YouTube channel for everybody to see that this is real life. This is kind of how transformations happen. Things go great, and then bam, something happens, and you have to pick yourself back up and just pick up where you left off.
Yeah. Listen, we lived the life. We're showing it in real time. So I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to show myself that I still got it, that I could get on camera after being sick and being able to have an amazing, transformative conversation with a dynamic person as yourself. I thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode brought you inspiration, joy, and a spark of empowerment. Remember, transformation is an incredible journey, and every single step you take towards self-care and healing brings you closer to the life you truly desire. If this episode uplifted you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us to share this journey of hope, resilience, and joy with many listeners. For more tips, support, and inspiration, come and visit us at designyourexistence.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining brightly. You are absolutely worth every bit of love and care you give to yourself. Take care, stay joyful, and be well.